Michael Morales Torres para Lucha Libre Online, Metro Puerto Rico y el calce junto a mí, representando a Impact Wrestling. Dirty Dango llega acá nuevamente a Lucha Libre Online. Dango, and it's an absolute honor to have you back here at Lucha Libre Online. You're in a limousine right now. I mean, I will ask you how are you doing, but you're having fun.
I'm just taking a limo from Boston back to Maine, and you have a gorgeous voice, man. It's really cool to hear you talk.
Thank you, sir. It's an
Yeah,
honor and humbled. Um, you are an interesting human inside this industry. You made your debut a while back, if I'm not mistaken. And if Wikipedia didn't lie, 1999, was that information correct?
that is, yes.
So,
September 1999. I had my first match up in Portland, Maine.
so this year will be your 24th year inside the wrestling industry. Did you ever expect your career to take you the places you are right now? For example, on a limousine, being part of the roster of Impact Wrestling.
You know, when I first got into wrestling, I was just talking to the boys in the locker room this week about it. I never thought I'd ever make any money or be famous. I just loved wrestling and having matches. And when I was 15 or 16, a 160-pound kid, I never thought I would ever get to WWE. So it's sometimes it's good to stop and smell the roses, but in this grind, you sometimes forget to do that, you know. And it's good to have people like yourself remind me that from time to time. So once you get on the hamster wheel, man, sometimes you forget how far you've come.
23 plus years, almost 24, your career took you to Impact Wrestling, one of the mainstream companies all around the world right now. And over there, you've had a lot of experiences. How did your signing, let's say this way, how did Dirty Dango decided, who approached him, who offered him a contract? Like, who was the person responsible for Dirty Dango being on Impact Wrestling as of today, sir?
Yeah, I actually started with TNA wrestling back in 2003 when they were down in Nashville, which was funny because I wrestled Johnny Swinger, who's a friend of mine, and 20 years later, I just wrestled him last week. So it's kind of funny that we're still in this world of wrestling. Everyone's kind of connected somehow, you know. That's why it's important to be good to people. But uh, Brian Myers and I are really close. We came up together in Deep South Wrestling and FCW, and you know, I was just doing a show somewhere, and he's like, "Man, why don't you come to Impact Wrestling?" I'm like, I haven't really spoken to anyone over there. I've met Scott Demore before in the past, just briefly. So Brian kind of pitched the idea of me coming in as a special surprise opponent at Bound for Glory in Albany last October. So it's like, sure, man. Yeah, of course. It's 5 hours from my house here in Portland, so I'll drive out. And you know, it was good to see everyone there. A lot of people that I've known over the years were there, and guys that I've worked with over the years. So Brian kind of, you know, was the mediator, the catalyst of me kind of getting connected with Scott. I met Scott that day, and I absolutely wowed him, man, with my awesome personality and great in-ring abilities. So we spoke again in November, and then he offered me a contract. So, and you know, it's been history since. So, yeah.
Did you ever expect that in 2023? I mean, Johnny Swinger, 20 years after, that's mind blowing. But the Cobra, Santino Marella, you were his partner in the last pay-per-view Rebellion as well. Do you ever expected that Santino decided to go back into the ring with you as a partner as well? How was that whole experience? Like you've wrestled or shared the ring with a lot of personalities, but Santino is definitely something different.
Um, I've wrestled Santino
Yeah.
probably 100, 150 times. A lot of European matches, a lot of European tours. He is by far one of the best comedy wrestlers that I've ever not only been in the ring with, but seen. He knows it's like being a stand-up comedian. He has a great arsenal of jokes that he can go to in the ring, and him coming back to the ring in Toronto in front of his son and family. It meant a lot to him, dude, but it meant a lot to his close friends like myself. His best friend George was there. His, you know, like I said, his family. Man, when he came down that friggin' ramp in Toronto at that club, which was a really cool venue, he was tearing up, man, and it was really emotional for him. His son was right in the front row. his son's 4 or 5 years old, so he hasn't got to see him wrestle on a big stage like that pay-per-view in Toronto. So it was emotional for all of us, man, because you love, these are the guys we ran the roads with over the years, and we spend more time with each other than we do our families. So when someone does something cool, it's like being on a baseball team and you're in one of your best friends hits a grand slam to win the game. So it's just, you're happy for him, man, and it's cool to have him back, on the roster, just having him around. So yeah.
What was the thing that hooked you up personally from the wrestling industry in general? Was it the behind the scenes magic? Was it the persona, the gimmicks? Was it the in-ring action? What hooked you enough for you to be here 2 decades after you started doing this?
Well, obviously in the Attitude Era was the storylines. Austin, McMahon, Shawn, DX, Mike Tyson. But then, that's what hooked me into wrestling. I watched it in the early 90s with WCW. And then I became a huge ECW fan. I was a huge WCW Saturday, because when I first started wrestling, like I said earlier in this interview, I was 160 pounds. So I always thought I was going to be some sort of cruiserweight, a light heavyweight. So I was always, attracted to the lightweights, Juventud Guerrero, Blitzkrieg, the Villanos, Super Calo, Chris Jericho, Dean Malenko, Eddie Guerrero, the lighter guys, because at the time in 1997, 98, you got Lex Luger, The Big Show, all these guys, Hulk Hogan, everybody's 6'3", 6'4", 280 pounds. So for me, I really dug Rey Mysterio, the cruiserweights, and then watching ECW, seeing the guys go over there and doing the Lucha Libre over there. Jerry Lynn, I was a huge fan of. So I guess a little bit of both the storylines, the characters, and then the athleticism of the Jerry Lynn RVD matches, Lance Storm, those guys, the athleticism. Which you see a lot now. I think they're playing. There's a lot of young talent, especially on the Impact roster, man. Like the Bullet Club kids. That just watching them on the monitor in the back, it's like it's just so impressive what they're able to do. How athletic they are, how far the business has evolved, and some of the stuff they can do now. Just like I look at the older guys like myself, I'm like, there's no way I could have done that. But yeah, it's just they're raising the bar. Every generation, I feel, is raising the bar higher and higher, the stuff they can do. So it's really cool to see.
You mentioned something really important, and that's the Impact Wrestling roster. What are your thoughts on the level of competition inside the Impact Wrestling roster? You have heavyweights, you have the X Division guys, you have great tag teams. Everyone has a role. Everyone is serving or going after that role perfectly. And it's like a perfect storm, to say at the very least. What are your thoughts on the level of competition of guys like Steve Macklin, Josh Alexander, who will be back at a certain point, or guys like Santino as well?
I played baseball for most of my youth up till I was 18, so I went pretty much full-time wrestling, and a good baseball team, at a major league or a Legion Ball level or even a single A baseball level, you have a mixture of senior guys and younger kids. So you have mentors that can help the younger guys coming up. And I feel like Impact, you got Kazarian, myself, there's a whole list of Rhino, Heath, Myers. There's a whole list of kind of guys that have been around a while. Then the younger kids kind of coming up. So, you need the older guys that have been around to kind of to pass on knowledge, and then you need those younger guys that are coming up with these cool new spots and moves that are ushering in the new wave, the new generation, the new style of wrestling. So I would say Impact definitely has one of the best melting pots rosters I've ever seen before by far. I know you hear that a lot and it sounds cliche, but not only talent wise, but just the atmosphere in the locker room, besides myself, because I'm one of the biggest stooges and I'll stooge any of the boys out. But for the most part, everyone's pretty cool for the most part. Yeah.
So if you allow me, sir, I'm going to say something in Spanish really quick. Y es que este próximo 26 de mayo, Impact Wrestling presenta Under Siege directamente de Londres, Ontario, Canadá. Puede disponible a través de Fight TV, está disponible a través de Impact Plus de igual manera. Pero si estás en el área de London, Ontario, eventbrite.com o impactwrestling.com para boletos. Hay mucho mexicano, hay mucho boricua, hay mucho latino en esa zona de Ontario. Así que Under Siege, 26 de mayo, viernes, disponible por Impact Plus y por Fight TV si estás afuera. Pero si estás en el área, impactwrestling.com para boletos y ustedes no se lo pueden perder por nada del mundo. Y de igual manera, Impact Wrestling tiene su programación semanal todos los jueves disponible a las 8 de la noche por Access TV y a través de YouTube Insiders, y no se lo pueden perder por nada del mundo. Dirty Dango está en acción entre muchas otras superestrellas, así que 8 de la noche todos los jueves. Dango, I was just telling the fans in Spanish about...
Can I tell you what you just said? Can I tell you what you just said?
Yeah.
Under Siege is coming up in May 26th, right? Or 25th?
26th.
Make sure you tune in to see it. And that's all I remember. That's all I can.
And that there's a lot of Latinos in Ontario as of right now. A lot of immigrants from Mexico, from
Where are you located at, bro?
Puerto Rico.
Oh, crap. I love PR. I just talked to Primo Colon on the phone yesterday, 2 days ago. He just did a show down there.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, we were with him at Bayamon here, which leads me to my next question. You were here pretty recent in Puerto Rico, waving that Impact Wrestling flag. What are your thoughts on the Puerto Rican audience? And do you wish that Impact Wrestling maybe in the future gets a show here in Puerto Rico?
It's so crazy that you're saying that, because I've thought about, because Primo's helping run the island with with his dad, and how cool would that be to do an Impact show with collaboration with Primo and the Bayamon? How much history bringing the Impact roster down there would be so cool. But yeah, I was just there in January, and that was my first PR trip. And I every time WWE went to PR, I was on a different tour somewhere else. But it was cool. I got a lot of friends that are down there. But that was my first time experiencing the crowd and just the passion of the Puerto Rican fans, man. And it was pretty lit. It was wild, and it's a different type of vibe in the building, in that stadium. It's just I wouldn't say tense, but just intense. You know what I'm saying? And wrestling is passion down there for sure, 100%. And I look forward to going back, and it'd be cool if we could do some sort of collaboration with Impact down there. I think it'd be huge. It would be absolutely huge.
Hopefully we can have an Impact Wrestling show between WWC and Impact, or Impact alone, like whatever we can have. We love Impact Wrestling in Puerto Rico, so we hope to see you guys more often here. Dango, for time purposes,
has Impact ever ran PR before?
Yes, they ran as TNA back in 2008, approximately.
Okay.
8 or 2010, approximately.
It
was a different show. It was a bigger venue. It was a great show. It was a great freaking show.
Nice.
And they brought a lot of talent from the roster back then. Dango, for time purposes, I wish we had more time to speak. But before we go to our last question, I want to thank you and Ross and the Impact Wrestling roster, for making this possible. What's the message to the fans so they can tune in Under Siege on May 26th through Fight TV, through Impact Plus, or to the Latin American fans that are around the area so they can come to the show at London, Ontario, Canada? Dango
has a new attitude, and he is going to win the fake title that Joe Hendry has, the Digital Media Championships. And the ironic thing is, I'm going to win the title and then sell it on eBay, which is I find very funny because it's not real. So that's the message I'm sending out to the not only to the Impact universe, but to Joe himself.
So let's hope to see this come a reality. We want to see you with a title. If it's the digital media, if it's the X division, if it's the world champion, we don't care. We just want to see you with gold real soon. So, man, I appreciate your time. Wishing you success in your career and in your personal life. And let's wrap this up, pero en español. Dirty Dango y Michael Morales Torres para Lucha Libre Online, porque en español nadie lo hace mejor. Será hasta la próxima.